so first and foremost, welcome to the Battlebred family. We're absolutely happy to have you, brother. Now tell the world who you are and what you do.
A lot of people know me as Monacan Ryan, and I've been in the presses now for a little over 20 years. It's one of the things I do, and that's why we're here today.
All right, so why don't we start by going to the beginning? What got you into dogs in the first place, and then how did you land up in the Presa Canario?
When I was born, we had my dad's sister had passed away before I was born, and she had a CNI dog that my dad had. And so from the beginning, I was introduced to dogs that had a job. Time goes on, and we lose a dog and whatnot. My mother had a couple dogs throughout her life, companion type dogs. And I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and we're talking 80s and 90s. Richmond's murder capital of the world at that time. It's not far from it now. So it just eventually got so bad in Richmond that we moved out of the city when I was a teenager, moved about an hour away, nothing to do in the middle of nowhere. And this is early, mid 90s at that point, and I wanted a dog. And at the time, Rottweilers were hitting, pretty popular at that point. So I'm a teenager and I want a Rottweiler. And my uncle happened to have friends with Rottweilers, and they had imported them in at that point. Like one of them came from Belgium, from Germany. Our friend's wife was from Belgium. So either way, it made the importing easier. Another one of his friends was moving to Phoenix and had a 2-year-old and said, couldn't take it. And, if you can give the dog a good home, you can have it. So as a teenager, I got a 2-year-old Rottweiler, amazing dog. I can't say enough great about it. Only thing I didn't like about that dog was its recall. It was horrible. Like if you took the dog off leash, like he's probably not coming back. He's a mile down in the woods chasing cows or something. But aside from that, they were fantastic dogs. So you fast forward, and at this point, it's early 2000s, and the dogs, Rottweilers, are getting older. You putting them down, such and it became a sin to own a Rottweiler. The bad reputation, everything that goes along with Rottweiler stuff. And so I didn't, to put down the last one. And I'm like, man, I got to find something other than Rottweilers that people don't know about. And I'm kind of looking at this breed, that breed, and I still lean to Rottweilers, but I couldn't find what I was looking for. At that point, they had changed. Anyway, I happened to be sitting on the couch one day watching TV, and there's this show. It was either on History Channel, TLC, Discovery, one of those type channels, and they were talking about these lawyers and for the Aryan Brotherhood, these two guys in Aryan Brotherhood, and they were talking about this, that, and this whole program. In it, they mentioned that these guys had gotten an extinct breed of dog called the Perro de Presa Canario. And I'm sitting there like, wow, I've never heard of something like that. Like, man, I've been around so many dogs and breeds. Like, what in the world is that? Long story short, end up on Google finding the dogs. This is in like dial-up days of AOL, putting a CD in your computer and it running through your phone line. And I find these Presa Canarios. And the first dog I seen was Argos de Arima Curto. I seen that dog, and it was unlike any dog I had ever seen. The way it was built, the brindle of it, I'd never seen a dog, so I was super interested in it. I just went down the hole. It was so interesting. I went down the hole, and back then, Arima Curto, like most pedigrees, were Arima Curto. I'm not saying all, most pedigrees were Curto pedigrees at that point. There was Barnick and Bull was popular at that time. Red Star Kennel, they were doing their thing. It was a lot smaller community, obviously, back then, which made it more interesting because it was like the best kept secret. So, man, if Presses caught my attention. Corsos caught it a bit. I've had a few of those. And I've stuck with Presses. And that's, like I said, that's been over 20 years now that I've been into them.
All right. Now, I guess that's one of the big debates on the internet, especially. What are some of the key differences you would point out between the Corso and the Presa?
In my opinion, the Presa is a more primitive type dog than the Corso. Corsos tend to be more polished, if that makes any sense. Now, with that being said, I also say the Presa today is not the Presa it was when I got into it. It was a different type of dog back then. A lot of the characteristics have probably, or maybe been bred out of it from back then. It was a different type of dog back then. In any case, to me, Presses are more raw in their attitude than what a Corso is, and that's not knocking Corsos. I mean, there's working Corsos. It's just I don't know any other word to put into it other than the Pressa's a more primitive type dog.
Mm-hmm. I gotcha. Are there any traits in the Presa that you would like to change?
Oh, it's a tough question. If there's one trait, even though it goes against what the dog was and used for, probably less dog aggression.
Okay.
Just so it's easier to manage. I see people, they'll have out a few of their dogs at the same time. I guess they have good control. Maybe it's genetic, whatnot. I only have a couple of my dogs that can be loose around one another. Other than that, if they're coming out of kennels in the yard, it's one at a time. Mm-hmm. Some of that is just avoid it in general, that there could be a problem. The other part is it ain't going to take but a second, and somebody's going to stand wrong beside somebody else, and it's on. And they don't stop. Not for mine. It don't stop. It's not like they're going to knock heads and kind of rough one another up and it's going to be over with. Nah, it ain't over with till it's over with. So for me, really probably just the dog aggression, which I'm used to. So that's not really, it would make life easier, but it's not something I trip about. I mean, it's just what's kind of expected. Stay structured and keep control, and don't have an accident, and that would probably be about the only thing in that. Now, that's on a mentality level. On a structural level, again, I'm saying like the mentality and the structure were a bit different back then. I'd like to see dogs with more bone than what I'm seeing now. The Presses that I was around and introduced to, they had heavy bone in them. And now it's like a lot of dogs are barrels sitting on toothpicks. So some of those features have been lost, and that's something that I always try to keep with my dogs is good bone, not losing that. Intelligence, should be an intelligent dog, able to read situations, whatnot.
Mm-hmm. I got you. Now, with that said, what are some of the things you do when putting together breeding pairs in order to balance size, drive, and stability without drifting into extremes?
You know, I talk to a lot of people and they tell me their breeding plans or what they would like to do and stuff. And I always tell them, man, you're focusing on one thing, right? Don't pigeonhole yourself, because what you're going to one end of the seesaw and that's all you're going to get. You're going to end up losing a lot on the other side. So for me, I test my dogs the best that I can test my dogs. I do bike rides with my dogs for X amount of miles. For an example, one of the first presses I had, fantastic dog. I can't put into words this dog. The intelligence, this thing had a sixth sense that was unbelievable. And if you spent time with this dog or you walked this dog a half mile or so and came back, you're like, man, what a dog. If you went half a mile with it, but you know what? At a mile and a half, that dog would just stop walking and he'd lay down in the middle of a trail. And that's it. Like, you're going to be there 20 minutes. And then he's going to get up, and then you're going to go a little further, like heading back, and he's going to do it again. So if you never went a mile and a half with that dog, you would never know. That you would think this is the creme de la, and you would never know. So for me, I test my dogs as much as I can to know where the breaking point is or how they act when they get to a certain level. Example, doing bite work or something like that. Okay, this dog fires up. Now you apply more pressure, right? Next time you're doing more pressure on it, more pressure. You're loving what you're seeing. Now you do gunshots. Okay. Now some dogs, that's their breaking point. For me, that's a no-go. I'm not going to breed that dog. If it's a dog that cowers. Now, assuming that you haven't broken the dog too early by doing gunshots, right? Because these dogs are not herders. These dogs take a while to mentally get to a point that something like a Malinois is going to be at very early on. So you can screw up these dogs, Mastiff type dogs, but Presas are still just a little different than that. You can screw them up real quick by doing too much too early. Well, with that being said, I go to the point of testing my dogs with cannons. I want to know, where is this point before this dog is able to reproduce? Because is it worthy to reproduce? You'll get a dog, okay, it does great all the way to this point of like the sounds and the stimulation and whatnot. All right, but now you do gunshots and the dog might turn around and it's either biting at the leash trying to get loose, not to run away to go to target, or it's nipping at your sleeve. Like, okay, can we channel this? Can we redirect this dog? Is it so much turned on, wanting to go, that it's something, or is this something to where, like, nah, if you end up breeding this and then you have another dog that you're breeding it to, that both are doing it, good possibility you're going to have an issue on your hands. I'm not knocking anyone. A lot of people don't go that far with it. So you don't always know what you're doing in breeding if you don't go far. So again, stuff like the bicycle rides, the stimulations, can they handle 4th of July fireworks being on the front row? Will they do obedience while the front row fireworks are going on? Or what's going on? Let's find out, because the devil's in the details. So let's find out exactly where we are at. And if you're trying to make a line of dogs, your line breeding dogs, So if you've never done that type of stuff, well, then how do you know what you're really doubling up on when you do breed? And for me, and this is for me, balance is what it's all about. For every ounce of a dog that will turn on and protect, I want another ounce of just neutralness, where it doesn't, the seesaw isn't just all leaning one way. Because again, for me, my opinion, if it's all leaning one way, you're probably losing on something else at that point.
Right.
Another thing I look for is, and I do a ton of stuff. It all starts in the whelping box, right? So from the start, you're looking at what puppy is pushing through the other ones to get to mama's nipple and get the best nipple, right? Not one of them little small ones, getting to the fat one that it can put its paws on and push the milk on, right? So you're looking at which dog is doing that. You're looking at which dog, example, take puppies outside. And for a lot of people, they're like, okay, well, I just need to let these puppies outside. I've been at work all day. They need to go outside, right? I'm doing more controlled. I'm taking them out and just a few at a time, stuff like that. I've already probably at that point, if some pup has showed more dominance, or a couple of them have showed more dominance, I've probably separated them, because that can ruin good pups. It's all, about your imprinting. But to take a pup and put it on the whole other side of the yard or field, sit them down, walk back. Is that puppy like, oh, shoot, like, what do I do? This is all new. He's not here. Or is that pup following you? Paying attention to different things like that, or the recovery of the dog. That to me, that's another large thing, is how fast a dog can recover. Did it get a little spooked and quickly came back, or did it not get spooked at all? Or did it get spooked and it's like, oh, this is something I'm going to carry with me. And I don't know if it's making sense, but it's just a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
A lot of stuff that I personally do, and I'm fortunate because I have the time to do it when I have litters. And a lot of people don't always have that type of time to spend a couple months, almost all day, with puppies doing stuff and imprinting. Imprinting is it's about the biggest thing you can do with your dog, other than teaching your dog to leave it and to recall. That's the biggest thing, in my opinion, you can do, because that's what it's always going to fall back on, just like a human. Right. You're going to fall back to your basic imprinting. It's like getting in a fight as a human, and people will think, oh, when I get in this fight, my adrenaline's going to kick in and I'm going to do it. No, once you start taking some hits in the face, you're going to fall back to your basic imprinting of what you know. So how well you're imprinted means everything. Mm-hmm. And that's life. That's just life. So I spend a lot of time imprinting pups from the start.
Are there any recent genetic trends that you noticed that might be considered dangerous for the future of the Presa Canario? Before you mentioned, a barrel of a dog on toothpick legs, but are there any other recent trends you've noticed?
I don't think I would call it a trend. I think a lot of people are making too many exceptions on what they're breeding. Mm. And that's a danger. The exceptions that people, let me see how to put this. I know a lot of people are breeding very early. When I got into presses, it was commonplace that dog's going to be 2 years old before you breed. Because before then, you might see the traits you like, and you might like how your dog is coming along, but you really didn't know what you had until that minimum 2 year mark. And they'll still be developing a lot of times physically, mentally, until they're 3. They're slow like that. So I think a lot of people are desperate to breed, and they're making a lot of exceptions. DM and the dogs. There's some lines with DM in it, and people making exceptions to breed to those dogs because, oh, this dog is just intense. Oh, I've never seen a Presa like this. Well, man, this dog is like a herder. Well, if you want a herder, go get a herder.
What is DM? Generative myopathy?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I was I don't know why I know that.
Yeah. I've read it so many times. I'm like, but yes. Yeah. So usually, and this is usually, it doesn't start affecting the dog until the dog gets older, right? But on the same aspect, like if you know it's there, why are you breeding to it? Mm-hmm. Because you're making an exception. And man, I'm just not good with exceptions. And I think Lee Robinson probably said it best. There's exceptions and there's allowances. Yeah. And at most, you should be making allowances, but to start making exceptions, because you make one and then you've made another and then you've made another. And man, you're usually when you start making exceptions, you're not getting better. You're getting worse. So I'm not good with it. Damn, man, if the dog is showing that much like intensity or this or that, like we can't find one that ain't got DM, and really what good is it if you're putting in a genetic problem like that, then what good is that to me? And I'm not trying to bash people or whatnot. I'm just speaking from my experience and my outlook on it.
He also said if you use all the right ingredients for cake, but you put just a little bit of shit in there, you're never going to be able to get out that little bit of shit. No, you're not.
You're not. And the crazy thing is, like one of the lines I'm speaking of, it like a puppy off of that line, once they tested it and they found out, like a person had a pup off that line, tested it, and it showed 75% Presa, and the rest was Boxer and Dogo Argentina. And it's like, okay, so you're making an exception to breed a dog with DM that also its offspring is only showing 75% Presa. It's showing Boxer and Dogo. So like now you're making 2 exceptions. If you want intensity that much and you're going to breed a dog that's mixed like that, why not just breed to a good pit bull at that point?
Absolutely.
And bring some health into it. You'll get gainers. You probably get way better health. So, yeah. And like I said, I'm really not trying to like crap on people about it. That's just how I go about it, man. And that's just how it is for me.
I've always agreed with that, though. If you're going to mix dogs, I think a pit bull could pretty much clean up anything.
Pretty much. And it kind of pretty much has in many different breeds.
Yeah. Other people
get a good one. Not necessarily a trading post, classified ads pit bull. Get something from someone that has been reputable, and it'll probably clean up. And I'm not, If you're willing to make the exceptions to breed a dog with genetic problems that are mixed and whatnot, like, yeah, just go do that at that point.
Yeah.
And at least be ahead of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I noticed there's a couple people that I bumped into online that are breeding pit bulls to Presas, and I think it's a great idea. I think if you're happy with going the mixed dog band dog route, I think that's a phenomenal mix, probably.
As long as you're honest about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I have no problem. See, for me, Presa was a type of dog, not a breed of dog. Now, obviously, now we have a breed standard, but a Presa was a type of dog. So to back up a little bit, I'm talking about, okay, dog with DM and it's got this in it, it's got that in it. If the dog didn't have a genetic issue like that, like, I really don't mind the mix in it, as long as you're upfront about it.
Right.
You know, as long as you're honest about it, I don't mind. Because to me, it was a type of dog. Now, when you start getting too far off base here, even though it's type of dog, like I said, it has a breed standard. And when you start veering off too much and no, okay, just say we're doing band dogs at this point.
Mm-hmm. Now, with that said, just to your point of now there is a standard.
Mm-hmm. Or multiple.
I was just going to ask you, what do you think the exact different types of Presa are today if you were to break them down into categories?
I would say, all right, so 20-some years ago, you know, you went Dogo Canario, Presa Canario, right? I personally feel like after a while of that split that the Dogo Canario became a different dog than the Presa Canario.
Mm.
Because now you have a format that you're trying to meet that the other part of that breed doesn't have to meet. It's going to go two different ways, right? So to me, that was two different types of dogs there. Okay, so the Dogo Canario took on, to me, more Mastiff type traits. Fast forward to today, and probably more of what you're asking. You have dogs that still more Mastiff type Presas. You have more of a quote unquote working style Presa. And depending on where you're getting the dogs from, it's going to make a difference. For an example, I have a couple of my dogs from Arima Curto blood. They are completely, I say completely, there's a lot of difference between them. I ain't gonna say completely, a lot of difference between them versus my dogs that came from Germany. Germany breeds their dogs different than what they're going to breed over. So your locality can make a huge difference, right? If you are, breed of dogs, but that can kind of make a sub breed, if you will, depending on where you're located. So a person in Montana that's on a 700-acre ranch has a Presa. He's going to breed his dog probably a lot different than me in Richmond, Virginia, because his dog is and is not going to encounter things that mine might. If he's out on a ranch like that and the sun's shining and he wants his dog to keep up, good possibility that at some point he's not going to use black dogs. because they're going to be out in the sun.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, for me, the type of people that I'm going to come across day in, day out. See, I have dogs that a couple that only the household people can come around. Outside of the house, if you're not family, they want to get it on off top.
Mm.
And, they're not going to a festival or anything like that. Now they can go in public, but I'm very, I'm paying attention. When I say in public, I'm out on a hiking trail somewhere, something like that. But I'm not going to put them in the middle of downtown Richmond for the St. Patty's Day Festival where there's 60,000 people crammed in 4 blocks. That dog is not going. But I have dogs that can. And if the occasion arises, they're going to do what they need to do. So at a festival like that, this is Richmond. You're going to have one person walk up to you that's a doctor, and they have fur mom ideology. And the next person that walks up to you just got 2 bodies last week, and he ain't been caught yet. And this dog has to be able to read the room, where the dog in Montana don't necessarily have to do that. So we're looking for we're looking at different things here with where we're breeding. And I guess that's also too why I say a dog of balance is important to me.
Mm. So would you say more or less for quote unquote types?
Mm-hmm.
There's that athletic Presa, more of your Montana 700 acres. And then you have your more Mastiff type Presa. Would you say the rest are just like a spectrum in between?
Probably so.
Okay.
I think a lot of people too a lot of people that breed the dogs don't really understand genotypes and phenotypes and whatnot, and they don't always match the dogs correctly. They just say, wow, that's a good dog. And then I want to breed to that dog. And the dog they have looks completely opposite of that dog.
Mm.
But they're like, well, this is a good dog too. My dog's a good dog and that man has a good dog. And they're 2 completely different types of dogs. And they're like, man, and you're thinking that, oh, I'm going to get those traits from that guy's dog that I used the stud service from, and it's going to go to my dog. And man, chances are you're probably going to be all over the place with what you produce. I believe more in kind of like families of dogs, because that's how I kind of learned. Was breeding more like a family style, because not everything mixes great with everything, even though, something more established, probably like with Yorkies or something, you could put a couple of them together and pretty much get a consistency there. With something not so established, you kind of got to lock in the foundations more, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really think it's like that on a wide spectrum. Some people's dogs you can look at and be like, yep, that's a Curto dog right there. Or, yep, that dog's from the AVD. And just to back up a little bit, with the conversation, the dogs from Germany, they're from De La Arena, which use some Iron Bull blood and different dogs like that. Part on the database, and I don't know if it's still up there or not, but it says we do not breed for like a heavy defensive dog. We want a dog that can go to the barbecue with you, and you can take it off leash, and the dog is cool. It's cool at the barbecue off leash with everybody. But now, if that dog needs to, it's going to do what it needs to do. So that's how it is, say, in Germany. Whereas in Romania or something like that, where it's a different type of society, they might breed for a hotter dog that off the rip is just a hotter dog.
What do you say the bottom line purpose for a Presa Canario is?
Well, for me, it was a dog, a utilitarian type dog that would adapt to whatever scenario it was in. My experience. Not saying it's something chiseled in stone. I'm giving you my experience with it. It was always a dog that was adaptive. So it was a dog that whatever the handler's doing, that's what I'm doing.
Mm.
All right. We sitting in the house today because it's raining. All right, cool. Let's watch TV. Oh, you want to go knock out them 7 miles, walk up by the river? Cool. Let's go do it. Oh, he's cool. All right. Hey, what's up? Oh, he ain't cool. All right. Hey, what's up? You know, so it was, for me, it was always a dog that was adaptive to the environment that it was in. And that's not to say that it didn't have its core genetics to it or its triggers. But you learn your dog and you learn its triggers and you approach accordingly with what you're doing with your dog. You don't put it to where the trigger is going to get pulled when you don't want it pulled.
Mm. Let me ask you about breeding practices. How close are you willing to breed?
So I don't rule out anything.
Mm.
Okay.
Sure.
But I don't do anything. Last week I did a couple breedings last week. And I have a dog. A lot of people wanted the semen off this dog. There was a dog that's passed away now called Tinguaro de Iron Bull. And I have, in North America, I have his only son. I think there was a daughter that was off of him over here. But I have his only son. And my good friend in Mexico has the only other one. So we're the only two people this side of the pond that have this dog. People have hit us up for semen off of him. I don't ever sell it out to the public. I close that door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So his daughter, I bred her last week. And people are like, man, you ought to run that back to the dad. You ought to run that back to the dad. Like, no, man, you going to double up on Tinguaro like that? Run it back. And I'm like, nah, it's not going to get what I want. Right. Like the devil's in the details. I've spent every day with these dogs for years. Like, that's not the move to make. I'm telling you, I did end up running her to a half sibling. So I was willing to do that.
Mm.
Now, they shared the same mom. The mom is not line bred. So she's bringing in a pretty large genetic pool. Not because, obviously she's not line bred. I did to a half sibling. From the best I can tell, and in my experience, that was worth it. Like, I'm willing to take that chance.
Mm.
In my opinion, though, a lot of people are getting on the line breeding thing before they really know what they have, because they're breeding dogs young. You haven't seen exactly what you got yet, right? Have you walked your dog 2 miles? Have you walked a dog 2 miles? Let's just start at that, right? No, Yeah, or yes or no. If you haven't, then why you don't? So you don't know yet. You don't. So you have a dog. You've making the exception on breeding this dog young. You've made the exception of you haven't seen the full potential of this dog. You don't know its, for a lack of better term, you don't know its quitting point yet. Different stuff. Have you even ran an embark? Just at minimum, an embark on it, right? But you're going line breed, and so you have to be at a point to know that's the thing the thing to do. And I just feel as though a lot of times people are not at the point yet with what they're doing to do that. Okay. And it takes, and if you haven't done different type of testing, health, physically, whatever, right back to like what we were talking about. Okay, the dog was cool with the whip snap. The dog was cool at this point, but once we elevated it to this point is when the dog kind of lost its head a little bit and didn't stay. Like you haven't really tested to know what it is. You've seen the traits that you like, so obviously that makes you want to go do it. Well, not knocking you. I'm not knocking you on that, right? That's why you're here, right? But I think a lot of people are putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
And so a long-winded way of saying, for me, I was willing to do that. I'm not going to knock it or anything. I think a lot of people are in a rush to get themselves established and whatnot. And hey, I can see, because when you're with these dogs, man, it takes a long time. So you're trying to find the quickest path from A to B, right? Because you can get the female you want to use, and I've had it happen. Man, I've had a female, one of them, and I kept her back from a litter, and I'm raising this dog. I'm like, yeah, this dog's great. Yeah, this gonna be good. And I'm watching her, and at a year old, I'm like, yeah, all right, man. Things are looking good. And a year and a half, yeah, things are looking good. And at 2, the devil's in the details. And I'm like, there's a couple little details here that I don't want to pass on. And this dog fit a Presa, the standard, fantastic. Presa's like, for even a small detail, Presa Canario, base of the tail is supposed to be real wide. It's supposed to have, like a Coke can base. A lot of those dogs now are missing it. They're not they're not terrier tailed like a pit bull, but a Presa has a wide base tail, right? She had that. Everything is within the standard physically and mentally, but she's showing a couple little details that I don't care for. And we said, you know what? No. I posted her, hey, she's available, small rehome fee. You want one? Go ahead. And and I end up, the guy went to pay me, my little rehome fee. I was, man, take the dog, man, and go enjoy it. And so with that being said, all right, well, that's a dog for 2 years. And my standard that I keep, that's not going to be the one. Well, for that leg of the program, we just got thrown back 2 years, and now we're going to start over. Mm-hmm. Right now, obviously, you have more than one female, but for that part where I want to go that direction, well, that puts you behind 2 years. So now, at best, it'll be another 2 or so before. So I get long-winded way of saying, I guess, you can get behind very quick. So I can understand why a lot of people are trying to breed so early and get their name out and be the hottest thing going. But when you start skipping steps, that shit gonna come back and bite you in the ass, man. You can believe that.
Right. Let me
You can,
ask you, if you don't mind sharing, outside of the tail, what were the other things that kind of set her back?
it was just a little bit in her like I don't want to say mental, because she wasn't a mental dog, like, oh, nothing like that. Just in a couple of her traits, to where I was like, I don't know, just, I guess you end up with an eye for it, and you just, sometimes it just, you see something, you're like, not really liking that little bit of it. I'm not going to call it, wasn't like an insecurity or unconfident or nothing. It's just a couple little things with it that I just didn't really care for. And it wasn't, and I say don't care for like, oh, this dog is horrible, just not where I want to pass it on to
Sure.
feel like I could do better. Feel like I could do better. Now, a lot of people going to be like, man, I don't raise this dog for 2 years. I got to get something out of it. I'm going to breed the joint and, give her away or whatever and get rid of because I got to get something back. Nah, I ain't, whatever, man. Just take the dog. I ain't going to put out bad dogs. Or not that it was a bad dog. I'm just not going to put out something that ain't where I want it to be at.
Right. What do you think the biggest mistake new people make is? Like, let me reword that. What do you think is the biggest mistake people make, especially newcomers, when they're trying to train a dog for protection?
Trying to train a dog for protection?
Yeah.
With Presa Canario?
I would say yeah, Presa Canarios, but
in general?
But if there's also generalities, you could point them out as well.
Okay. My opinion, everyone focuses on the bite, nothing else. Well, the dog, can we make the dog bite? And like, you haven't taught this dog to even down yet. So that's like, well, this drag car go 300 in a quarter mile, but I ain't put the brakes on it yet. So kind of back up a little bit. Every ounce of on, you need an ounce of off as well for balance. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to get lost in the sauce out here with the internet. Remember, I'm from a time when internet won't like what it is now. It was a different mentality back then too. Mm. Like, a lot of people wouldn't train dogs for that type of work until these dogs had OB that was real good. Mm. You got to have brakes on that race car, man, before I send you down the track going that fast.
Right.
So I think it's easy for people. Get on the internet, see everybody's great fight video, and be like, yeah, I want to do that. Without doing the other leg work, skipping steps. Mm-hmm. Trying to put it into words for you. The influence, allowing others to influence them. Right down to, oh, I want a working dog. Yeah, because you've seen that 15-second video. That's 15 seconds of that dog that you've seen. It looked awesome. Just admire it. Do you really want 15 years of that? Mm-hmm. Do you want to not go on vacations because who can watch the dog while we're gone?
Right.
And especially when you have multiple dogs, you have a kennel or whatnot, you just own multiple dogs of these types of dogs. You have to have someone that you trust to take care of dogs if you're going to go anywhere. And if you don't have that, well, you're going to start missing a lot of stuff because there's no one to take care of the dogs. And I'm going to tell you this part, and I hate to say it, but the dog world is a dirty place. Dirty place.
Absolutely.
And to find someone you can trust and to come to your house, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. So a lot of people are influenced. Now, mistakes that I know that I say with these types of dogs, molisers, are people going too fast with them. Man, it takes longer. If you want to go fast, you know, with these dogs, slow is fast and fast is reckless. The slower you go, you're making a lot of progress, but you're probably thinking you're not because you're comparing it to something else. You're comparing it to a 10-second clip of a dog, and it could be another Presa. Man, don't compare your dog to another Presa. Make your dog the best dog it can be. Don't try to make it another dog that you've seen. Your dog might be able to go to 6. Make it the best 6 it can be, right? Because you're going to be a lot happier like that. But if you're trying to make, you know, a goldfish in the jaws, man, you're nah. But either way, that type of influence, man, be real with yourself. Be real with yourself. Find someone to work with you that you can trust. See, a lot of decoys, and I'm not knocking decoys, right? Or trainers or anyone like that.
Sure.
But a lot of them are used to working shepherd type dogs. Because that's the cheat code, right? That's the easiest when you're doing that type of stuff. I mean, the selective breeding that's been practiced for decade after decade after decade. The RNA that's in them, not just DNA, the RNA, everything about it, that's the way to go. And that's what people are used to doing. And a lot of times they think, I'm not crapping on them, but a lot of times they think they can just adjust a little bit, being it's a Presa, and still use their tactic and their methods that they do herders with. And that's not really it's not really there like that. A trainer can make your dog the hottest thing on the internet, or it can make you can have a great dog, and that decoy can make you look like everything you've ever done is trash. And it really can come down to just their knowledge, but it'll make you look bad or good. Expecting herder type stuff out of Presas. I'll back up a little bit. You know, we talking about the dogs of yesteryear when I first got into the dogs. I read conflicting things about the Presa. On one hand, it was like, you know, this dog is a dog that they would let out at nighttime in the Canary Islands, and when they'd wake up in the morning, it'd be a dead man in a field. And it was like, well, good riddance, because it was probably a pirate anyways, right? That was one end. Then I read another kind of temperament standard with the dogs, and it's like they should have the cool, calm, confident island temperament. You know, hey, man, no big deal, whatever, unless they needed to do what they, you know, needed to do. Mm-hmm. Almost completely different standard on it. And I see video from back then over in the islands and in Spain. And a Presa, they would be at one place, and this dog is on a chain, and it's like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't want to come anywhere close to that dog. And then there'd be another dog, and it's roaming the street freely and playing with neighborhood kids and stuff like that. However, one of the things that stuck on both of them is that they were a quiet dog. Uh, so a lot of barking, stuff like that. No, they weren't about it. Kind of like, like how they say with Neos and stuff in the courtyards and stuff, they would sneak up on you and do it like that. Or bull mastiffs, right? They wouldn't be there really barking so much back then. Somebody would come into a property on an estate, and a bull mastiff has snuck up on them and has them pinned. So it said that the Presa was a quiet dog. All right. Now we go to the training of them. A lot of decoys. They want that bark out of the dog. Right. So they're doing the arm and pulling it back and doing it, and they're getting this dog, to bark. And oh man, big round of applause if you can get this dog to bark in cadence, like make a tune out of it, basically. Man, that's not Presas. The dog might bark or whatever. And I asked a decoy one time, I had a dog, we were working it, and I was like, hey man, why are you trying to and I'm not downing him or nothing like that. Just, I'm asking questions. Why are you so focused on trying to get this dog to bark this much? And he's like, well, it shows intent. And I'm like, but the dog was at the end of the back tie. I mean, you can hear this dog's jaws just pow, pow, pow.
Yeah.
Like, that's not intent. Like, and again, I'm not downing or nothing like that. But what I am saying is, and I'm not saying he doesn't know what he's doing. Completely not. But what I am saying, these dogs dance different than a herder or something like that. A herder type dog, I'm expecting it to, doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some of the early imprinting methods that you use for growing pups?
I don't want to give away all my secrets, but I'll go over a couple. Socialization is the biggest. The more I can expose to the dog before that window gets closed is super important to me. Again, that's the default. So when everything else crashes, like we talked earlier, you go to your default mode. So if default mode is all this stuff is normal, then that's the imprint. So socialization doesn't mean everyone needs to come up and pet your puppy and dog park. No. Worst place in the world, especially these types of dogs. That's a disease-ridden fight club. So no, not dog parks, but socialization, man. Take your dog out. Take your dog out and make it comfortable, or let it be comfortable with different environment, different noises. I spoke on, like, say, taking a dog to the other side of the field, taking a pup and sitting it down and walking off. Obviously, keys. What you're going to do your day-to-day life. When my pups are born, the TV is on and it don't turn off for weeks. It does not turn off. The second their ears open up or their eyes open up, they're going to be hearing TV shows. I don't care if it's, Wild West show, gunslinger shows, thunderstorm sound, like the sounds of thunderstorms and stuff like that. Whatever noises I can put them to is of what they're going to encounter in the world. I'm not going to shelter the dogs. Now, I'm not going to go too hard. You need to know the stopping point. Obviously, TV ain't one of them, but you need to know the stopping point of what you're trying to introduce to the dogs, and how to go about it. But I'm trying to put anything and everything that they're probably going to encounter. They're going to go. I'm going to go out and I'm going to have them in the kennel and jump on the mower and ride around the yard. They're going to get used to a lawnmower. I'm going to hook a little trailer behind the lawnmower and put them on the little trailer and ride them around the yard. You know, they'll be comfortable with, we have some movement. Are they standing? What are they doing here? Evaluating the puppies. Which puppy's cool on the trailer? Which puppies thinks he wants to jump off? Have them running the weed eater. You know, keep them away from it. You know, if you put them in a kennel or something, weed eater around the kennel, you don't want them to get hit with the string. But they're going to see it. They're going to see it. A lot of behavioral. You know, a lot of people say train the dog. I'm a little bit larger. I lean more towards on the behavioral of a dog, because correct behavior is a trained dog. And I think a lot of people misunderstand training the dog. And it's like, well, actually, I mean, I can teach your dog sit and down and do this, do that. I mean, it's cool. But if it's bad behavior, like behavior. A lot of people, I think that it's a lack of training with their dog, and actually it's a lack of behavioral. And usually that comes from lack of structure. That's another thing with imprinting with me is structure. The dogs thrive on structure. And if you're going to have the mentality of, oh, that's being mean to the dog, oh, that's being mean to the puppy or whatever, man, don't get one. Don't get one. Because if you have one of these with some temperament behind it, that dog's going to run your house. And once that dog runs your house, things will probably get ugly. And it to the point that where it's probably going to be some knocks at your door that you don't want, and some money coming out of your pocket, right? So a lot of people are very unstructured, and I don't suggest a dog in general for that type of unstructuredness. You know, go get a cat or something. But you can obviously get away with it more with little dogs. But structure is really might be one of the largest things with imprinting. You know, obviously we said sounds and sights and different scenarios and environments. And like I said, I'm always testing dogs, you know, whether it's 4th of July, and like I said, all types of festivals or this and that. And it's all imprint. It's all training.
Mm-hmm. Going back to what you were talking about earlier about having a dog with the ability to read the room. Do you think a socialized animal can sense evil?
Man, hell yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah. Especially part of that's genetic. Part of that is the way you've raised your dog as well. If you've been real loose in your life, so to say, and you know, kind of all over the place type of thing, then that dog might have a bit harder time, because it's like, well, I mean, this is my leader, and this is who's I've always been with. So that person there, I mean, you know, it might be a little funny, but I mean, my leader's, you know, kind of wild and all over the place, right? But if you've raised your dog a certain way, I mean, my dad raised me a certain way, and within a few seconds of people, I can not trying to sound cool or whatever, but you can tell, man. Like, hold up. This ain't adding up off top. You can get a feeling. You can catch an energy off of people real quick, right? Difference is, us as humans, we usually try to negotiate it in our head with a benefit of the doubt, whatever. But if you're clear-minded,
Yeah.
if you were raised a certain way and you're clear-minded, then you can tell. Do I think dogs can sense evil? Absolutely. I've experienced it multiple times. If one of my dogs, now again, I've had dogs where it can only be around the family. So, and anyone else, you know, the dog wants to get it on with. I'm not using that as the baseline there, because that dog wants to get it with everybody. But a balanced dog, when that dog doesn't trust someone, tells me, hey, I ain't feeling that, man, I'm trusting the dog.
Absolutely.
I'm trusting the dog all day. And if you can't, for me, you know, might be different with little inbred chihuahuas or something, I don't know. But for me, man, with a well-balanced, well-bred dog, if it's telling me that, I'm following that dog. You know, animals are very intelligent, very intelligent. Especially compared to humans, you know, when you think about it, and I'm not trying to go on too long about it, but when you think about it, humans are the most scatterbred type of thing there is, right? There is no health testing. There's no, the weakest ones, really, the weakest, least to offer is who probably has, you know, ends up with the most offspring and stuff. You know, and our breeding is what's that?
I said, not to cut you off, but I feel like how would I put it? There's book smarts, there's street smarts, and then just animal smarts. I agree wholeheartedly. If my dog doesn't like somebody, especially if it's one of my more friendly dogs, and they just, for some reason, they want to rip this person to shreds, I'm like, you know what? I'm not a risk taker by any means. So, I'm not, I'll stay away from this person.
Yeah, for sure, man. That dog's telling you something, you know. And like, I had a dog 20-some years ago, Presa, and man, he would lay in the office all day with the secretary. And people, you know, a handful of people throughout the day, like an ups man would come in or something like that. That dog wouldn't lift his head, right? And then there was this one guy that would come by. And before the guy ever made it into the parking lot, you know, the dog is done gotten up, and he's like he knows, right? Now, obviously, their sense of hearing and so on and so forth, he knows. But I mean, he's came in different vehicles. So it's not like where the dog is isolated it to one vehicle sound. This dog already knows, like, damn, why did he get up like that? Man, he wouldn't let that dude come through the office door. The random UPS man come in, the dog's never lifted his head, and he won't raised around the UPS man or anything like that, or any of these other people, you know. I had to sleep in a stairwell with that dog one night. And that's a whole different story about a whole different time of life. Man, it was the middle of January, freezing cold outside and stuff, and I had to sleep in a stairwell with him. And I told the dog to down, you know, I told him, lay down, boy. He lays down on his side. I laid my head on his shoulder, and we're kind of belly to belly. And I laid my head on that dog's shoulder, and man, I go to sleep. And I wake up about once an hour or so, and I don't want to disturb the dog, right? And I wake up and I kind of just squint my eye open, and that dog literally has and eye squinted open as he's snoring. Which every, dogs don't fully sleep like that. There's still a level of consciousness for the wild side of the dogs, for predators and stuff, right? But point being, man, this dog lets me lay on it like that for hours, probably 6 hours or so. Does not move, sleeps with one eye open, and that's the Presa the type of Presa that I was introduced to when I got into it. Hopefully that answers your question, but definitely a well-bred dog definitely senses that type of stuff. We don't give animals in general. We somehow think as human beings that we're the smartest of everything on earth. I have a hard time believing that. We just have a kind of vocal and written language that others don't. Animals. See, what I enjoy about animals is that it's truth. And I always look for truth. Animals are truth. There's no lying about it, right? If an animal cannot, to have offspring, you have to, one, earn the right to mate. Secondly, you have to have food and shelter for your offspring to survive. If it doesn't, then that bloodline is cut out because it's the weakest. Mm-hmm. The reason when the impalas are jumping the creek and the tiger or lion or whatnot catches the slow one, that tiger is a killer. It could go run after the fastest one, right? But it catches the lowest hanging fruit. But in return, what that does is make all the other impalas faster because we've gotten the slowest one out the herd, right? And that's the truth. And so there's no lying with nature. Everything is earned. Basic life is earned. And I don't know another way to put it, man. There's no lies about it. There's no, well, I feel like, or, there's no exception or anything. No, it's what it is. 2 + 2 is 4. You might not like 4. Well, I don't like even numbers. Well, it's still 4. Well, that's just what it is.
Right. So let me ask you this. What's your process for evaluating a good stud dog beyond just like looks and height?
It's beyond looks. Obviously, it would be mental. I'm pretty fortunate. I haven't had to go outside for a stud for quite some time. I have a hard time as well. There's a lot. There's only a couple people that I really pay attention to with these dogs. That I like their work, that I trust with their work. And I'll give a shout out, if you don't mind, to D7 Islas, Fear Rios, with him, and then the AVD like De La Arena. So I trust their work because I know what they do. And I put hands to it and whatnot. A lot of people sell a pipe dream, or it's a great picture, but all you're seeing is a great picture and a video. Again, you're not living with that dog every day, all day, so you don't fully know. And with a lot of the community, it's kind of hard to put trust into that. So, like I said, I'm pretty fortunate that I just have my own stuff that I can go to. And need be, I can go out to like sources like I mentioned. Mm-hmm. But outside of the physical, there's mental. And I think, okay, well, how is this mental going to pair with that mental? Because again, like I was saying earlier, you can have a great dog of this bloodline or You can have a great dog of that bloodline, but it don't mean that the two are going to go together well.
Mm.
You know, a Toyota Camry is a great car. A Lamborghini is a fantastic car. They don't go together.
Mm-hmm.
Toyota Camry, it's going to ride till the wheels fall off, do everything you want it to do. As long as you take a little care of it, it's going to last you. It's going to be easy on maintenance. It's a great car. Then again, Lamborghini, it's exotic. It's a great car. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. But that don't mean they go together.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, if that answers your question.
Do you feel like the online portrayal of the Presa Canario as a whole, like generally, is accurate or distorted? As far as like the majority of content you see regarding the Presa Canario, is most of it, is it accurate or distorted?
I would say there are some people that do it justice. Okay, it's a guard dog, right? Or protect, whatever the term is that someone wants to use for what one of the features that the Presa is that.
Mm-hmm.
I show videos sometimes of the dog doing that, but I also try to show videos of us doing other activities, because I don't for me, I don't want to just pigeonhole like that's all this dog is. For some people, that is all that dog is. That's all they breed for. That's their lane on it. But I think us as a community, we need to be real cautious about that because of the direction that animal stuff is going, especially with dogs. You know, we need to be very cautious of how we're exposing these dogs. One of the things that I loved about these dogs, right, is that back then it was a secret. So you had to be there, right? And kind of like back in the old days with game dogs, and back when they used to match them and stuff. Well, no one knew what pit bulls were because it was an underground. It was a subculture. The more people you start letting into something, all right, well, now you have more chance that something might not go the way you want it to go. So with so many people getting into it now, we really, as a whole, need to be cautious of what we're putting out there as the reputation of these dogs. And I get, you want your dog to show it like this, show it like that, because, that might mean a puppy sale or that your dog's better than other people's dogs or something. But you paint a portrait. And once you paint a portrait, man, it's hard to get it to change. And those animal people, they're on it. They are on it. The organizations that don't even want people to have domesticated dogs. And guess what? They're not bickering among themselves, even though some of them might not like each other. They're not doing that among themselves. And no, they're all standing together to come after us as dog owners, dog lovers, dog breeders, and whatnot. And we stay divided up a lot, and we're divided among ourselves, and we paint a lot of times a certain portrait, and man, that's all it takes. So, with what you're asking, hopefully I'm not going too far left with it.
No, just want your just basic general.
So the distortedness is a lot also gets distorted because a lot of people want to be relevant and they speak as though they're authority on it. And they really, have barely gotten their feet wet. So that can distort a lot of things, especially with such things as certain misinformation being put out, or be careful of who you're listening to. They might mean well, and whatnot, but it can really distort because a lot of people will be in it for 2 or 3 years, and they'll think they're at the level of someone who's been in it for 20 or 20 plus. I've been in it now for 20 plus, and there's people that were in it before me, and I don't put myself at the equal of them. They're different era, probably. Respect your elders and stuff and whatever, not calling them old, but they're more seasoned in it. They're veterans. They've done it longer. But I'm not, no, they will always have that. Okay. But when you can come in, a lot of people make good videos or whatnot. And they'll be in it for a couple of years. I guess what I'm trying to say is don't get too lost in the sauce. Just because a video is cool or somebody has X amount of followers, that don't mean it's a true of what you're looking at, or they're speaking from experience or something like that. And what you can end up with is very distorted information. I heard a podcast, and before I say this to whoever it was, man, I'm not trying to kick you or nothing like that. I don't mean it that way. But what I am going to say is that I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and the man doing it had a person on who does another podcast, and they're talking about the dogs, and just right off the top, every breed that he mentions, he mispronounces the breed name. For a Neapolitan, he's calling it a Napoleon Mastiff, and Cane Corso is a Cane Corso, which I know everybody says Cane Corso, but every breed, and I'm like, damn, man. And all right, so they talk 20 minutes about the dogs. Then he goes on for an hour of how to market and how successful he is with it and stuff. Now, okay, so you have that much influence. You're that good with your marketing or whatnot, or you take that much time with your marketing. Okay, but you're influencing how many thousands of people? If every person on this thing said, man, I want to go get one of the Mastiffs, and everybody went and knocked on a breeder's door and said, yeah, y'all got them Napoleon Mastiffs, you just misinformed something so small. And it doesn't sound like much, I guess. It probably just sounds like I'm ranting. It doesn't sound like much, but
at the end of the day, it could be.
Yeah. There was some other stuff that he said that was completely false, and I just don't want to, like I'm kicking him or something like that. But it was completely false, and the person doing the interview was like, actually, man, that's not it, But how many people have you already told this to that believe this?
Right.
So, and I'll end it, that part of the conversation with this too. If you notice with presses, at least maybe it's just me. Everyone thinks they have to be a breeder.
I think that's dogs in general. I was just talking to Lee, not on an interview, just a private convo the other night. And I was talking about perhaps, I know I've rattled that thought off probably 1,000 times on my channel, but I really want to dial in a good video about that. Like, look, people, why is the first thought you have when you get a cool dog to breed it? Why not just enjoy having a cool dog?
Yeah, well,
There's nothing, and this is another point I want to make, because say you have a YouTube channel, he has a YouTube channel. That's not competition to me. There's enough for everybody to eat. I tell people you can make money on your dog without breeding it. If you start a YouTube channel and I mean, look at that parkour dog, right?
uh-huh,
You remember that guy? You,
uh-huh.
that guy who, I know he's a breeder as well, but that guy who had the Hulk, Marlin, the Dark Dynasty guy.
Yeah,
A lot of his money came from content.
right.
Like, you don't have to breed the animal. You don't have to. So why is that the automatic? It's like me. I'm 37 years old, right? I'd like to get back into martial arts very soon. But I kind of want to take it slow. Maybe start off with getting back into boxing first, just to kind of just work on my hands, you know. But I don't want to go. I don't want to go be the next Mike Tyson. I just want to do it. I just want to do it because I enjoy it.
That's awesome you said that, because growing up, I did martial arts and stuff, man. And, you know, I've got a few years on you, but I'm like, man, I'd like to get back in the dojo and, you know, I mean, just be stretched out and feel good and, you know, brush back up and stuff and get back to it.
Yeah. The guys who, you know, most of the people that are going to hit you up for a dog, 8 out of 10 of them at least are, you know, well, when it grows up and, oh, it's such a great dog, I need to breed it because that's a great dog over there too, when most of them don't even know what a great dog is.
No, most people have not put hands on a great dog.
I mean, it might be a good dog, might be a great house pet, might be a decent guardian, it might check the boxes you think it should check. But like I said, I use the boxing analogy because I don't expect to go off and be the next Mike Tyson. No, absolutely not. Not even, it's not, doesn't even cross my mind. So why does somebody think, oh, I'm going to get this really good dog from this really good breeder, and automatically I'm going to be a breeder?
Oh man, I seen a guy today. I was scrolling and with APBTs, and he was like, "Hey, does anybody out there have a dog? A breeder have a dog they don't want, and they could give it to me so I can start my yard." And I'm like, "Huh?"
That is the exact wrong approach.
Yeah, so you want someone to basically front you in with the dog that they didn't and don't, but you know, people make some exceptions because they hear these romanticized stories. Well, this legendary dog was given to this person and it turned out to be, you know, grand champion whoever. That was the exception. That was an individualized case. That is not the normal plateau that's going to happen.
And not only that, like, you really, in my belief, you really got to stack the odds in the dog's favor and maximize the value and the potential of the dog before you consider reproducing it.
Like I said, I had Corsos in the past, as well as Presas, but I've had Corsos. So for a lot of people, Pit Bull is like the ultimate of what they know. So when you get into a Corso, or they hear about it, well, this must be the most exotic thing ever, right? So I've got something super exotic. And in their mind, that brings value. Well, my friend down the street got one too. So we're going to put it together and, you know, we're going to have something of a different, and it's like, actually, you know, you're probably not. And that's why, I don't know, you know, why you see so many bad bred dogs now is feeling that you have something exotic when you're probably not fully educated on what it is that you're looking at. You know, you're going off of a name instead of what you're putting your hands on. And I've, you know, met a lot of Presa people like that. Kennels didn't know who Arima Curto was. Like you have this blood and you don't know, Manuel, like, his influence to the breed.
I wanted to make a point that I heard a long time ago. I would trust a breeder more if he walks through and picks apart his entire yard than the breeder who says, "Oh no, all my dogs are top notch. All my dogs are perfect."
For sure. I just sat here and told you, man. I like a dog that I gave away. You know, now
it's just lacking a couple little things, but still, you're able to say, you know what, this dog, I'm not a fan of its hindquarters. She's a great bite. She's a, blah, 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 but,
Yeah.
or whatever. But I do see where you're going with that. I would rather get a dog from the guy who I know is going to tell me the absolute truth, even about things he doesn't like about his own dogs.
Yes. Yeah. I turned down so many people for that dog because they all wanted a breeder. And I'm like, well, don't you think if she was meant, I would have done it? Like, I've had her, she's mine. Like, don't you think I would have done it?
Right.
Right. And it turned down so many. I'm like, no, man, I just want to see her go and to a pet home. Somebody just wants a dog. And, we were talking about everybody trying to be a breeder, but the thing is, like people with golden retrievers and Yorkies and stuff like that, a high percentage of them like a golden retriever. And so they get it and they just enjoy their dog. They don't, every person who gets a golden retriever doesn't feel like I have to be a breeder. They can just have the dog and be like, hey, I'm happy. It's our family member and good to go, right?
Some people are happy with a shelter dog.
Some people are. And hey, I'm not trying to kick anybody for it. When I told you about when it was with Curto and I seen Argos, and man, I'm studying his website, his old website back in those days. And I'm looking at these dogs and I'm reading about Presas and man, I'm studying. I'm like a student of it at the time. And I've probably forgotten more than I can remember at this point. I seen that and I was like, man, I want to be the Arima Curto of the United States. Obviously, I'm like, not trying to copy him or something, but I want to be able to be that. Mm-hmm. Be a good dog person. Be that. That's like my goal. That's what I want to be. And that's 20 some years ago. So I understand of wanting to breed, but a lot of people as well aren't doing it because of the dogs and stuff. A lot of this stuff has become accessories for people. Mm-hmm. It's a way for them. It sounds like a real butthead thing to say, but a lot of people are playing characters out here in the world,
Sure. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. And so the dog is an accessory for them to be able to play a character with.
Yeah.
A lot of people ain't coming for the dogs, man.
You could say what you want.
I'm really biting my tongue about a lot of what the community is. Yeah. So I'll say it the best way I can. If you get in, especially with these dogs, if you get into these dogs because you love these dogs, be cautious. Be cautious of the people. And I'll leave it at that. Be cautious of the people. I'm sorry, where were we at before that?
No, I think we covered that. What I was going to ask next is, what is your ideal buyer? First and foremost, like financially, mentally, lifestyle, and what are the main red flags of a buyer you wouldn't want to deal with?
I feel a responsibility with the breed. Mm. It's not Cocker Spaniels. It's a blockhead dog. So automatically it's a blockhead dog. It's going to get a bad reputation, whether it does something or not. Right. It's a square head dog. And I feel a responsibility of where dogs go. I won't sell to people underneath a certain age. Mm-hmm. I probably, I don't know the percentage. I turn down a lot of people with sales. If I'm not trying to kick rocks at people, man, but if you message me and your screen name is like, Young Killer, whatever zip code you're from, I'm not answering you, and you're posted up with certain pictures. I'm not selling you a dog. And your message is price, bro. Like, man, you haven't even, like, you don't have the decency to, I get it. We live in a different world today and it moves faster, but like, man, you ain't even said hello to me. It's 3 a.m. You just price, bro. Or you just don't even say anything. You know what it is. And you send a dollar amount that you want to pay for it. That's like, all right. I'm not even,
Yeah.
right. I'm not entertaining it.
I gotcha.
If I feel like you're trying to create, maybe you're not a dog person, the dog is an accessory for your image, then I'm probably not going to sell you a puppy. Mm-hmm. If it seems like an unstable type home environment or whatnot, no. So I'll get people that message me, and this is how I do it. This is just my way of going about it. And I'll give you a little history before I say my way. When I got into the dogs, there would be a price for the puppy. If you wanted papers, it was going to be this price for the puppy. And if you were going to breed, then it might be another price, or it might be the paper price. But however, like, you are not going to get breeding rights to that dog until the breeder seen how that dog matured. Mm-hmm. And then was like, yeah, that was a good one. Go ahead. So it was more, the community was more internally regulated like that. So anyway, people will call me, man, I want the biggest black male you have out the litter. Like, oh gosh, here we go, right? Mm. I'm like, okay. You have any dogs in the house? No, this is your average household. This isn't like a kennel. This is your average household. Okay, do you have any other dogs? Yeah, I got a male boxer. And so in my head, well, you wanted a male Presa, like that just got knocked off the table. I'm not going to send you a male Presa and you got a male boxer at your house already. That's going to turn ugly. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have children? Yep. Got, a boy and a girl or whatever. All right, cool. You got kids. So all right. Now that's one thing I need to look at with these puppies. Which one's going to be better for that? What's your lifestyle like? What's your activity level like? Are they working regular 9 to 5 and the dog goes out in the backyard? Do they go on hikes? Well, what are they doing here? Right? Do they travel and take a dog with them? Okay. So we've narrowed this down to, you're going to get a female with this, characteristics and this type of activity level, this type of energy level. And why I say energy, there is a difference between energy and drive. That's two different things, but this type of energy level. And I tell them, and if it happens to be a black dog, cool. If not, I mean, go buy a Corvette. You can get any color you want. And when you don't want to drive it, you can park it in the garage for 3 weeks and go on vacation. Nobody has to watch it. Like, just go get a Corvette. Or maybe get a different breed of dog, because it's not for everyone. And that's something that I come across too. A lot of people, okay, so like I said, a lot of people see Corsos and it's like, oh, this is the coolest exotic thing you can put your hands on. And then some of those people see Presas and like, or hear about them and like, well, that man, I think that's above the Corso, right? And they want that because they think it has that type of value to it in their mind, but really it doesn't add up to what their lifestyle is. And it's like, man, this breed would probably be a better fit for you. And I tell people that a lot of times, you know, they're cash in hand, wanting to get something. I'm like, man, this ain't for you. It's a lot of responsibility to take on an animal in general, but you have different levels of stuff, and this one probably not for you. I had a man, I don't know, some years ago wanting a pup, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I want a large male," and da 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 da. And I'm talking to him, and it's like, well, he's 65 years old. Right now he would have a hard time with that dog. But in another 5 years at 70, like he ain't gonna be able to handle that dog if he has to handle it. So this like, nah, man, I think it'd be better if I sent you a female. You know, I think you would enjoy it a lot more. And he hits me up every few months. Man, thank you for that dog. You sent me a great one and stuff. And a lot of times buyers think, okay, well, I'm gonna buy a pup, and with the little bit of how to go about buying a dog that they watch on YouTube or something like that, it's good to educate yourself, obviously. But you should also trust your breeder, the person you're getting it from, when they're telling you, hey, this is the one for you. Okay, yeah, you watched a couple videos and you come up and, oh, we didn't choose our dog, it chose us, and it's the one that came up to us. Man, that might not be the best one. Sure. It might not be the best one for your life. Like, trust me when I tell you, this is the one that was probably going to work out best. And if someone comes and looks at pups, and I have, say, 2 that would be good matches for the family, okay, the rest of them, they're not going to be around. It's going to be between those 2 because that's what's going to work for you. The rest of them, nah. And flash money if you want, and say this, I don't care. That don't mean nothing to me. I'd rather that any day than you take the dog. Okay, example. I do not advertise, oh, Christmas pups, better get you one, because I don't want to have to convince you or try to persuade you to get a dog like this. I want you to come to me because this is the type of dog you want. I'm not trying to market it to you and persuade you with it. All right. You got that Christmas morning puppy, right? And now that pup's 8 weeks old or so, and it's the dead of winter, and you're taking that dog out every morning, and you can't really do but so much with it because it's cold all the time. So it's kind of being more of a pain in the butt than anything. Spring starts rolling around. Your buddy's got a boat. Y'all want to go out and live your best life or whatever. Hey, the dog ain't working out, right? Well, you're supposed to be a responsible breeder. You're going to take it back. Now, I got to take back a dog that you haven't done anything with. It's however many months old now. It's not because I persuaded you to get this because it was Christmas litter and hot deal or something. Nah. Or because I'm, good at marketing. Nah, man. I want you to come here because that's where you want to come. It's what you want. And so with that being said too, talking about someone you can trust, I had a conversation not long ago. Like for me, my deposit is $750. A lot of people might be $250, $500, stuff like that. My deposit's $750. Why is yours so much? Because once you give me that deposit, it's in your head that you're going to get this dog, right? It makes it real. And you've put your money towards it. Now, if you give me a deposit before I do the actual breeding, then I'm going to take 10% off the total cost because you're actually serious about getting the dog, right? So I'm going to take 10% off the total cost of that dog if you give me a deposit before the physical breeding. People say, well, man, you know, I'm leery on it because I've had people and I've given deposit and I didn't get this or that. And, you might just want my money. Man, I don't want your money. What I want is for you to take this dog when it's ready to go, and you putting money towards it is what makes it real for you to do that. It's not your money. When I ask for a deposit, it's not your money that I want. It's you saying, yes, this is what I want. If it was your money I wanted, I wouldn't take 10% off the total cost.
Sure.
Because if not, you'll be waiting on a deposit and waiting on it, and the puppies will be getting older, and you're like, hey man, this dog is 7 weeks old, supposed to be going home next week, and there's not even a deposit on it at this point, Oh man, I got, this once in a lifetime emergency just happened today. And you're like, all right, well, now I got to start going down the list here of people to where this puppy, because you want your pups accounted for. Obviously, you breed because you want to produce better dogs, good dogs. You have a goal and a vision for what it is you're trying to accomplish. But the dogs have to go somewhere, and a lot of people think they want something until it comes to that time to actually do it. And, remember Boys in the Hood? Homeboy thought he wanted to go back out that night, and hey, go stop the car, man. I need to get out. Yeah. He didn't want to. When it came time to do it, he didn't want to do it.
Right. Or the classic. You're ready to cross the T's and dot the I's, and so my wife doesn't buy the dog. It's like you didn't figure all that out before you even contacted me.
Man, don't even get me started, like why, let me ask my wife, like, well, why have you called me a dozen times and been on the phone? Because I'll talk to people if I have the time. I'm gonna talk to you and we can chop it up and talk some stuff and whatever. But it's like, man, you've called me a dozen times, 2 hours at a time. Like I've spent a part-time job with you, and you supposedly haven't even asked your wife yet. Yeah. Come on now. Shouldn't that have been a conversation before you ever picked up the phone? Right. Like, hey, babe, I think I like to do this. Before you start getting on everybody else's time like that.
Yeah, I think, as a grown man in a marriage, especially in a household, it should be, hey, honey, let's talk about getting a dog. What kind of breed do we agree on? And all that.
There you go.
It has to be pre-planned before you ever decide to contact a breeder.
Because it's just like I just said, it would be no different than me trying to market and persuade you to get one of these dogs. So that's kind of what you're going to do with your wife at that point. All right, well, we know 9 times out of 10 it's just a cop-out excuse, right? But for when it is real, you're basically persuading your wife or whoever to do this. Well, you're having to persuade. Then it's probably not the way that it should go, for you.
Yeah, it should be 100%. Yeah, let's do this. This is awesome for all parties involved because it's a 15-year commitment.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. On top of that, when we're talking about buyers, let me ask you this question, just an interesting one off the top of my head.
Uh-huh.
If you had to choose, would you have a buyer that's quote unquote experienced or somebody that's coachable?
Man, that's a good question. I guess there's such a gray area in that because, experience, nothing replaces experience. But if you are experienced and you're closed-minded, then you can live in your personal truth. There's two types of truths. There's personal truth and there's absolute truth. Your personal truth, religion, that's a personal truth that, a person might keep to them. Different stuff like that different thoughts that are that's their truth that they hold tight to them. And absolute truth is that the sun comes out, there's a moon, earth is like, there's no debating it, right? It is what it is, right? So if an experienced person, you're only going to see something one way, then that can be your greatest downfall. So that makes you lean towards something that's more coachable. Coachable means usually that there's an understanding there. But if you're learning from a bad coach, well, you know.
Well, I kind of strategically pose that question on purpose because I kind of tell you, you got your wits about you at least. And I kind of knew you'd give that answer because there is a lot of people, especially in this online dog world, that feel like their experience trumps everything. And what I'm screaming at them is, I am a dog nerd. Do I have the experience in the world? No, not at all. I've had 8 breedings in my whole life, but I'm always a student. I always want to pick up something that I didn't know before. So yeah, I kind of strategically placed that question in there as it came to my mind. But I did want to ask another, because earlier you said, you were talking about, it's the winter time, it's Christmas, and now spring comes around. You're with your buddies on the boat, yada yada yada. What do you think the hardest age to manage a puppy would be?
The hardest age to manage a puppy?
Yeah, like the most troublesome age as far as a growing Presa Canario.
Well, I love puppies. A lot of people hate puppy stage. A lot of people will take their pup later on because it's like, it can hold its bladder longer, blah 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 blah. It's but you got to have somebody you can trust that they're going to do right by the dogs. I love the puppy stage because they're sponges, and you can see you've created this, and you've spent years creating it. Because and I'm getting a little sidetracked, but okay, like the breeding I did last week, like. That breeding, it puts puppies on the ground today, but that breeding is thought about one of those puppies, what it's going to be in 3 generations from now, right? Because I have breedings like drawn out for generation after generation after generation of kind of a blueprint of where to go with things. So when you have pups and they're you're starting off with them and imprinting them, and you're looking at these personalities, and it's been a great day with them, and they're sleeping and bundled up together. Like it's great because you're watching years of this. They might hit from that 6 to 8 month maybe, and it can be they can test you at 3 months. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes they'll feel themselves a little bit in that age and want to test the waters, and that can be something you have to reel back in. And Presas, though, from my experience, I really haven't had any to where it's a certain age to where it's like, now don't get me wrong, I've seen their attitudes change, hit a 2-year mark, and what didn't bother them before, they ain't going for now. I've seen, with maturity, we do it,
right.
As humans, but I have experienced it more with Corsos, where 6-7 month old. Oh my gosh! Man, That's why earlier in the conversation I was talking about behavioral is such a big thing. That's what really made me realize behavioral is something that I don't want to say, because it'll be interpreted wrong. I don't want to say it outweighs training. That would be miscommunicated, but definitely behavioral at that age. Like, yeah. And it's been with a couple of them I've been around like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, all right, with that being said, if you had to absolutely choose between these two traits, watching a litter grow, the puppy you pick, would you pick the one that's more bold or the one that's more intelligent?
I think,
I mean, obviously we want a balance, but I'm just saying if you had to choose, there was two puppies that were really good, but each of them had that one extreme. Which one would you go with if you could only pick one?
short answer, intelligence. Assuming a dog wasn't a coward,
Right.
I would go for intelligence.
Okay.
Before boldness. You know, boldness can be stupid at some point. I could probably say a whole lot onto it and probably explain myself way better of what it is that I'm saying. But as long as the dog isn't a coward like that, I would go for intelligence myself.
Okay.
But let me add one thing to it. That's for the type of dogs, for the jobs that the life that I have my dogs in. I can see where if it was the guy on the ranch where he might go for boldness, I can see, or something like if it was like border patrol, right? Where this dog is doing kind of more of a singular operation, and that's what we need, like a back to the days of box dogs where it was just game. Some of them were just game. It was nothing else. It was just game, because it was one job.
Right. All right. Last question. Every breeder or every dog man, whichever you want to call it, has one dog that changed its life, changed the whole game for it, and sent him or her into that trajectory. Who was that dog for you?
Well, Argos was the first Presa I seen. Argos de Rimacurta. And just to be clear, there was an Argos before that in the mid 90s. This Argos was born in 99. And then there was an Argos 2 in the mid 2000s. But Argos, born in 99, that's the first one I laid eyes on. That's what put me to the breed. That's what started me down the whole path that I'm still on. For my personal dogs would probably be my dog Knox that I had 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of touched on a little bit the level of intelligence with that dog, the sixth sense. I mean, you could get out the car from work, walk into the house, and he is like, this dog already knew what your day was like. And you weren't stomping your feet, slamming the door, nothing like that. You're walking in like on any other day. And it was like the dog could just smell it on you, your mood of what your day consisted of. Many other things about him too with intelligence, but I would say probably Knox would be the one of all the dogs that I've had.
I got you. Now, for the listeners, how can people get a hold of you?
So Facebook is Monacan Ryan, Monacan Kennel. So it's Monacan Ryan, like Monacan Indians. Mm-hmm. I think TikTok is Monacan Kennel. and Instagram is a day in 804. We're in Richmond, Virginia, so it's a day in the 804.
We should do this again sometime.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do it. And one thing before we hop off here, I would like to give a couple credits. People, a lot of times people, they'll mention, oh, I had, my mentor. A lot of people won't mention that somebody helped them along the way. If they do, they just say my mentor. But I'd like to just mention a couple people just publicly to say thank you for what they've done, whether they realized it or not. And I'd like to mention thank you to Tom Garner, Don Mayfield, even though he's not with us, he's very influential. I'd like to mention my parents and my dad, rest in peace, and my brother, Lil Heavy, rest in peace. And I'd like to mention my girlfriend. She does so much. And a lot of what we do is with the dogs, plays an instrumental key in it. And so just, thank you to them and a couple others that probably can't remember off the top of my head. Sorry about it, but I would like to say thank you to those people for what they've done.